I'm going to talk at first a little bit about cold aisle and some of the cold aisle products. First off, why cold aisle containment? Well, we see it in two stages. Remember that partial and the total that I talked about? Typically, the partial containment is just two end-of-row doors. And some of that heat that actually happens as it wraps around the end of the aisle are actually prevented by the end-of-row door. And ideally, from an underfloor supply, fills up that row space almost like a bathtub from underneath. Now, there's still no total containment, so you're still going to wind up providing an oversupply, and you're going to boil it over the top. But when you're thinking about it, as far as controlling that supply temperature, you're going to improve the performance of your system for its ability to cool the IT equipment that was traditionally in a hotspot location, and you're going to move that stratification layer back up to the ceiling, because you're going to oversupply that cold aisle. And then, of course, total containment, where that incorporates a ceiling over the top, and that now what you can do is start matching closer your supply CFM to your demand CFM in your row, and have efficiency opportunities doing that. So again, the why implement it, obviously efficiency savings, and provide that predictability. Ideally, we'd like to see a high predictability in your data center, because that's going to drive reliability. Meaning, if you knew in a data center that you could create a whole bunch of different circumstances, and you knew reliably that your cooling system was going to be effectively cool, that's driving predictability. Today, all kinds of, in an open environment, all kinds of impacting factors can create an unpredictable response by your cooling system. This is just to give you a little bit of a concept around a CFD. If I had brought my pointer, I would be able to point, but if you really look at the top system, this is a static picture of a dynamic data center. As you would imagine, the cold aisle front view of a row of racks at the very top, left and right hand side, what that is showing you in the open chaos system, a cool air cloud being created in front of the IT equipment. Very typical locations of the top of rack and the sides of rack getting a warmer inlet air. But as you imagine, this cloud also undulates. And as it undulates, it can create other hotspots in use spaces. As you change any of the dynamics, whether it be CFM, the temperature of the air, or some type of blockage, or someone pulls out another tile nearby and changes your static pressure, that creates a lot of change. Partial containment. That's the end of row doors. Again, forcing. You can see the hotspots on the end of the rows are now eliminated as it's forcing all the air back up over the tops of the racks. And of course, total containment, where you've got a ceiling and a predictable cooling temperature to the whole face of all your IT equipment. So that gives you a little bit of idea of the performance and efficiency around a cold aisle. But it's not without challenges. Actually, none of this stuff is without challenges. Here's just a few, and they may range, but keep in mind, one of the unknown, or one of the lesser talked about points of cold aisle containment is you are having complete isolation, and when you do total containment, hot to cold. The problem is everything else in your data center is hot. So you have to be prepared for the rest of the space to be warm. That is not normally a preparation that we see. And in fact, you can still overdrive a cold aisle containment merely so the main aisles and the rest of the data center is not as hot, and forego the efficiency gain. Of course, local authority having jurisdiction. This represents itself as maybe potentially putting some fire suppression or detection in the cold aisle. These systems are relatively easily modified to be able to accept the fire suppression detection systems, and the bigger concern is actually putting it in there. The containment system can maintain total containment with the installation of fire suppression and detection. It's not so much that, but your local authority has the final call on what that is going to look like in your jurisdiction. And of course, next is the reduction in thermal inertia for outage ride-through. Depending on the density of your data center, you've got less cool air mass for your IT equipment to draw on during a cooling outage. Whether this cooling outage be a planned transfer over from engine generators from utilities, or maybe a planned maintenance shutdown, cycle down for a chiller plant. But you've got less cool air for it to draw on. And then clear ceilings that are typically utilized in cold aisle containment. Well, it's a flat surface. Flat surface in a data center that's clear will collect some form of dust or dirt over the years and would need to be cleaned. That's another challenge. Just to give you a little bit of a picture of what this looks like. Rows of IT racks, cold aisle. You can see the perforated tile in the middle, end of row door in ceiling containment. This was actually at a site of ours where we were doing one for test. You can actually see, looking down that picture, there's another bay there that was yet to be installed. We were doing some initial tests. As you can see, it provides a contiguous surface or a contiguous containment for the cold aisle, and it really doesn't change the racks itself very much. This is a picture of it inside, and essentially what it's consisting of is the end of row doors. These exist from a variety of different manufacturers and a variety of different models, including from us, whether they be single swing, whether they be a curtain arrangement or cafe style aisle swing. Aisle ceiling integrated to the racks. Remember I talked about independent or integrated to the racks? This is physically bolted to the rack. So if you need to move out an entire rack, you have to disconnect the ceiling, move out the rack, move in another one, reconnect the ceiling. And that may be fine. You may not be changing out racks on a regular basis, but it can be a concern. We put this on our racks as well as third-party racks. It's relatively flexible. Shown here in a 4-aisle cold aisle configuration, but with the higher densities, I'm sure everybody's aware, cold aisles are growing in footprint. Not unusual to see a 6-foot cold aisle nowadays. Cold aisle ceilings can accommodate that. This type of product can also be deployed, for a hot aisle. I'm showing it as a rack integrated aisle containment system, but it's really irrelevant whether you do it as a hot aisle or cold aisle.